The evening unfolded like so many before it, wrapped in the comfort of routine. We were curled up on the couch in our warm little apartment, lazily browsing through the seemingly endless catalog of Netflix titles. Our conversation had that familiar, easy flow, joking back and forth, gently poking fun at each other, even as we bickered mildly over what to watch. I felt genuinely at peace. We had been together for 2 years, a time marked by shared memories, laughter, and what I believed was a strong connection. Of course, no relationship is perfect, but I'd always thought what we had was real, something worth investing in. But as the night wore on, a subtle shift disturbed that peace. A quiet unease began to settle between us as her phone kept lighting up, its glow a sharp contrast to the soft ambience of the room. At first, I brushed it off, assuming it was a friend or a family member. But then I noticed how she smiled at the screen, how quickly she locked it whenever I got close, and how her mood would shift in my presence. She began placing her phone face down every time we were together. It was a small act, but it spoke volumes. Something didn't feel right. While the TV screen flickered with moving images, my mind wandered, increasingly unsettled. I'd never considered myself the jealous type. I trusted her. But that night, something felt different, off. I could no longer ignore it. Summoning my courage, I turned to her, keeping my voice calm but firm. "Who keeps messaging you?" She let out a dramatic sigh, rolling her eyes in a way that felt like she was brushing me off, as though my concern was meaningless. "Why do you even care?" she snapped, her tone sharp and annoyed. I paused, trying to stay composed. "Because we're in a relationship. And I can't help but feel like you're hiding something from me." Her answer came swiftly, and it hit hard. She leaned back, folded her arms, and with a smirk that chilled me to the core, she said, "There are plenty of guys who want me." Time seemed to slow. My mind raced to make sense of what she'd just said. I waited, half expecting her to laugh, to say it was a joke. But she didn't. Instead, she casually picked up her phone and began scrolling, as if our conversation hadn't happened at all. At that moment, something inside me shifted. I had spent so long trying to be the man she needed, always focused on her happiness, her needs, her feelings. But what about mine? I nodded slowly, her words sinking deep. "Good to know," I replied at last, my voice quiet, not angry, just hollow with disappointment. She glanced up, clearly confused by my reaction. Without another word, I grabbed my keys from the table. I turned to face her one last time. "If there are so many men out there waiting for you, then I guess you won't even notice I'm gone." Then I left. There was no hesitation in my steps. It felt final. A part of me still expected her to follow me out the door. Maybe a phone call, a text, some sign that she cared. But as the night stretched into early morning and silence filled the void, reality hit me. I was in this alone. I kept glancing at my phone, hoping to see a message that never arrived. Maybe she was expecting me to cave, to reach out like I had so many times before after a fight. But this time was different. I wasn't going to fall back into old patterns. Instead, I made a conscious choice to focus entirely on myself. Over the following weeks, I poured my energy into rebuilding the parts of me I had neglected. I started going to the gym consistently, caught up with friends I hadn't seen in ages, and threw myself into hobbies I'd long since abandoned while trying to hold our relationship together. It was like breathing fresh air after being underwater for too long. I began reconnecting with who I was before everything became about us. For the first time in a while, I felt whole on my own. I no longer looked to her, or anyone else, for reassurance. I found comfort in solitude and peace in moments where I was simply alone but not lonely. I was becoming someone I genuinely enjoyed being. Then, 2 weeks later, my phone lit up with a single word. "Hey." I stared at the screen, silently debating whether to respond. But her voice echoed in my mind, the smug certainty in her tone that night, the careless words she had thrown at me like they meant nothing. That memory anchored my resolve. I didn't reply. I let the message sit, unread but seen. It was a quiet act of self-respect, a refusal to re-enter the emotional chaos she had left behind. A month passed before our paths crossed again. I was out with friends, surrounded by laughter and easy conversation, when she walked into the room. She looked changed, maybe tired, maybe carrying the weight of unspoken regret. Our eyes locked across the space, and for a heartbeat, it felt like stepping back in time. Back when things between us were uncomplicated. But that illusion shattered as quickly as it came. There was a heaviness in the way she moved, an uncertainty that hung around her like a shadow. She slowly made her way toward our table, hesitant, unsure of her welcome. When she finally reached me, I felt a flicker of something. Was it sorrow? Hope? Guilt? Maybe all of it mixed together. "Hey," she said softly, her voice low and tentative, a far cry from the self-assured woman I used to know. I gave a brief nod in return, staying silent, not because I was angry, but because I felt completely detached. I didn't know what to say. Her words from before had already said it all. After a pause, she spoke again. "I was wrong," she admitted, staring into her drink, her fingers nervously tracing circles on the glass. "I thought I had choices, but none of them were real. Nothing came close to what we had." Her confession landed with weight. A month ago, those words would have meant everything to me. I would have fought to make things right. But now they felt empty. Time and distance had changed me. I wasn't the same person who once longed for her apology. "You're right," I said finally, my voice calm and level. "They weren't real. But I was." She searched my eyes for something, remorse, forgiveness, maybe even a second chance. But I didn't feel obligated to offer any of it. When she reached for my hand, a gesture that once would have melted me, I gently pulled away. Not out of spite, but because I had grown beyond needing her touch for reassurance. "I've learned to put myself first," I said quietly. "I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for." I offered a small smile, not out of bitterness, not from heartache, but from understanding. Sometimes the strongest thing you can do is walk away from someone who doesn't recognize your value. I turned back to my friends and picked up the conversation where we'd left off. A quiet calm settled over me. This wasn't about revenge or closure. It was about choosing self-respect when someone else didn't. As I walked away, a realization settled in. I wasn't hurt anymore. I wasn't angry. I was simply done. She believed she had options. Maybe she did. But so did I. And this time, I chose myself. I wasn't searching for validation or someone to patch up the silence she left behind. I had already filled that space, with self-worth, growth, and peace. And that, above all else, was freedom.